Earthlings. It is I, Christina, here at Fit and Bendy in Los Angeles, bringing you full middle splits. Today in this workout, we are going to break down how to start to slide down into a successful, happy, yummy, good feeling middle split with safety, taking care of your body. Now, if you are here, that means that you have done your preparation through our other videos linked below. All of the straddle and middle splits preparation with the hip rotation, the outside butt, the inner thighs, all of those muscles getting stronger and learning how to work properly. That means that when you go into your middle splits, you know how to hold your body. You're not going to rush pushing it down towards the floor, right? Making sure you're breathing the whole time so your nervous system stays nice and calm. If you are more advanced at your middle splits, you've been doing it for a while, you can also check out the tutorial link below and how to do a swim through split, which is where you go from seating all the way through straddle, through middle, to laying on your belly and maybe even back again, and how we use this musculature that we've developed to create that super awesome trick. All right? For your workout today, no equipment needed. All you need to do is be able to slide. So you need to be able to have some socks or some leg warmers or some pieces of cardboard or pull your leggings down over your feet, which I'm going to do to make sure you can slide on the floor. All right, everybody, meet me on the floor. Just like in our previous videos, we are going to start laying on our backs and saying hello with our windshield wipers. Yay, windshield wipers. And just checking in with the hips and seeing how they're feeling today, especially if you haven't done any other warm-ups prior to this. This is just your chance to check in and make sure that your hips are feeling good and gooey and agreeable. It's sort of like asking consent from your hips before you do all sorts of crazy things from them. And if they're feeling good and feeling ready, we are going to stick both legs up into the air, straight legs. And I don't like it when my leggings aren't even. There we go. Slightly neurotic. We're going to find our internal and external rotation here. Yeah, and that internal and external rotation is happening in the hip sockets. Now, if this position of having the legs straight up in the air feels really tiring on your hip flexors, feel free to put a pillow or a yoga block or something underneath your butt. Elevate your butt a little bit off the floor. It's going to make this feel a little bit more comfortable. And if it still feels really difficult, then I recommend going back to some of our previous exercises on the other videos linked below, which do a lot of rotational work. Now, we're going to keep this rotation going, trying to gradually increase the amount of rotation as we open out to our straddle. So I'm going nice and slow, opening out wide. And you will notice that the wider you go, the weirder it feels to go into your internal rotation. And in fact, when I'm out here, if I'm externally rotating, my legs will go down and they kind of come up when I come to internal. So that is a normal thing to feel. Don't push too hard into it, but you do want to feel how those muscles are still working with each other, still cooperating when you're out in your straddle. And then we're just going to keep that going. Bring it back in using those inner thighs. Definitely going to be using our inner thighs as extra support today. Let's do it again. Opening out to the side, feeling that nice rotation, controlling the legs as they move out. So I'm not just letting gravity kind of take them out towards the floor. Once I get out to my full rotation, again, I'm just hanging out here a little bit, feeling how those muscles work in this position with that little bit of push from gravity, bringing them down towards the floor and bringing them back in. Now, hopefully you can start to feel that those rotator cuff muscles in the hip, the TFL and the butt muscles really got some work there. We're going to get into just our external rotation now. So I like to flex my feet for this. Heels pressed together. If you have hyperextended legs like mine, they might not exactly touch, but I'm trying to get my knees all the way straight and think about trying to bring the backs of my knees in towards each other like they're going to kiss. From here, I'm going to bend my knees like I'm doing a ballet first position plie on the ceiling, and then extend the legs out and find that straddle. from the straddle position. I'm going to bend my knees here. I'm keeping that outside butt working all the time. I'm coming into sort of like a ceiling frog. And then I'm going to extend my legs out, point my toes, think about opening my straddle up just a little bit further. Let's do that again. So my knees bend. They're kind of picking up towards my armpits here. And then as they extend, I'm using my outside butt, connecting it all the way down the outside of my legs to my pinky toes to open up a little bit wider. Let's do 2 more of those. So my inner thighs are really lengthening out here. If your hip flexors are getting tired, you can use your hands to support your legs a little bit, just for that little extra help. And again, elevating the butt on a pillow is very nice. One more time, bend and straighten. And we're just gonna hang out in the straddle. And I like to do a little side to side rock here. And just feel that this is lengthening out. And I'm not just relaxing, I'm using my outside butt to press my toes down towards the floor and keep that external rotation, like I'm trying to turn the backs of my thighs towards the ceiling. Now, squeezing the inner thighs nice and slow, we're gonna bring those legs all the way back up to vertical. All right, knees bend, and a little bit of windshield wiper again, just to see how things are going. Now, that may have created a lot of intensity in your hip flexors. So we're gonna come on up to sitting and just do a little bit of an internal rotation work to try to release that TFL right there. So you can find your TFL sitting in mermaid. I've got both of my knees flopped over to the left. Now, if your butt doesn't comfortably sit on the floor in this position, you can kind of lean away a little bit, but we're hoping that you've done a lot of the preparatory work to try to get comfortable in this position, be able to sit up nice and tall. Now, your TFL is gonna be right here on the front outside of the hip. So here's my hip bone. I'm going a little bit down and out, and there's the TFL. And I'm just gonna massage it a little bit while I lift my hip up and down. And you may find that if you kind of dig your thumb in while you sit your hip down, there's like it's like that feeling that you get from a good massage, that kind of releasey feeling. It might shoot down the leg a little bit, just gentle, right? Again, not in the knee. And we want to just release that muscle, yeah, before we get into all the things that come next. Because what we don't want is for this muscle to grip. And part of why we're strengthening it is to keep it from gripping, because gripping a lot of times comes from muscles that are underprepared for the work that you're asking them to do. So we're now going to sit that butt down, little kneading into that muscle, and I'm going to try to twist to my right. So I'm driving this right knee to the left as I twist to the right. So there's a lot of compression in that TFL there. And I'm going to extend my hands out and put them on the floor. If you can't get to the floor, you can just come to your own leg. That's also good. And I'm trying to lean down, bend down over that leg, breathing in and out through the nose. Let's find a little spinal movement. So I'm going to try to arch my back and around my back. Is this a big, impressive movement? No, not big, not impressive. It barely looks like anything's happening, but I'm really feeling the muscles in my torso, my back muscles, my abdominal muscles, my torso muscles, moving my pelvis back and forth in this kind of weird twisted position. You might feel a little bit of a release in your lower back. This is a really nice thing to do for your lower back if you have kind of tightness or compression there. And you're hoping that over time, this TFL kind of goes and releases, and maybe you can come even deeper into this twisty side bend here. Let's do one more, and then we're just going to breathe and twist, 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 and then come on out and move it back and forth. Again, just check in, make sure that you didn't have any pain in your knees. When you come out, any kind of compression that you had that was uncomfortable should just go away immediately, right? And this should feel kind of nice and gooey. Let's do the same thing on the other side. So I'm internally rotating this left leg, and I'm going to try to sit up nice and tall. And we're just going to start with that little bit of massage, just a nice little massage there in that TFL. Now, I'm not usually like a huge fan of like deep release work. I don't do a lot of it for my own body, but I make an exception for this TFL. The TFL it is such a multitasker. It's so often overworked and underappreciated in our bodies that doing this nice little bit of release work for it can really help prior to getting into stuff like straddle and middle splits, and also just, for life, because it can pull on your knees and your hips and your lower back if it gets really tight and aggro and just kind of make your life sad. If your TFL is sad, you're probably going to be sad too. That's the truth of it. All right, as that's starting to release, we're going to get into our twist. So I'm thinking of driving my left knee to the right as I twist my body to the left, and I'm looking out over that left foot and breathing in again. I find that flexing this foot and kind of pressing it down into the floor does help to stimulate some of the muscles around the knee that are good for protecting the knee. Always protecting the knee. All right, from here, I'm going to drop my hands down to the floor. I'm leaning over that leg. Deep breath, feeling good. And I'm going to try to arch and around the back. And it's going to be a tiny little movement, but very worthwhile. Feeling how my torso still has mobility, still has control, even with my hip in this sort of weirdo position. And may feel like a really deep compression in that hip there, almost like a sort of pinchy feeling. And we're trying to get that pinchy feeling to just kind of let go a little bit as we go. Good, let's do a couple more. Use your breath in and out through your nose. You can inhale as you arch. Exhale round. One more, inhale. And exhale. And maybe go a little deeper. Oh, that feels nice. Yay, thank you, TFL. You're very nice to me. And come on out and shake it out. And again, that leg should just relax and feel good afterwards. So you don't want it to kind of keep feeling pinchy and compressed. All right, we're going to do some sliding work. So for that, I am going to pull my leggings down over my feet so that they slide nicely on the floor. And then I'm going to get rid of my mat because hard to slide on the mat. From here, I'm starting in my pike stretch. And this is the same position that we were in when we were laying on our backs, right? With opening our legs to straddle, legs up in the air, just different relationship to gravity. And I'm going to find my internal and external rotation here. Internal, there's that TFL, and external, there's that outside butt. We know them, they're our friends. We go way back at this point, right? So let's stop in our external rotation. I'm sitting up nice and long, and I am going to use those outside butt and external rotator muscles to slide my legs open to straddle and then bring them back in to pike with my inner thighs. So I'm trying to find these muscle groups that control this movement in my legs. Now, if this feels super difficult for you and it's hard to even sit in this position, elevate your butt, sit on a yoga block, sit on a pillow. It's going to make this a lot easier. But what you want to feel is that you can use these torso muscles to hold your body up with some, but not a ton of help from your hip flexors. So if you touch these hip flexors here, if you squeeze them, you want them to be like fairly relaxed, and that most of the work is coming from here and from the torso and from the back, right? And that is what's holding you up. And if these guys are relatively gooey, that's what's going to enable your legs to start to go further and further back towards the wall behind you. Let's do one more of these. Bring them in, externally rotate, bring them out. We're going to squeeze, 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 squeeze. See if you can bring them just a little bit further. And then if you want, you can use your hands to come in to your deeper, but still comfortable straddle position. From here, a little bit of yummy torso movement. I am a huge fan of anchoring the limbs, so the upper body or the lower body, and then finding different movements that we can do with the torso. Really exciting for creating spinal mobility and strength in the limbs. So here we are, we're moving the torso around, bam, 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 and the legs are anchored. From here, both arms out to the side. I'm going to take my right arm, flip it towards the ceiling, reach out long, lift up and over, giant rainbow with that right arm as I drop my left shoulder down towards the floor. Now, let's take a look at what that right leg is doing. I'm going to bend that right knee, flex the foot, drag the heel in, and I'm making sure that that right knee is going straight up towards the ceiling. And then when I extend it back out, I'm trying to slide it back a little further than it was before reaching my butt towards the floor. Let's try it again. Bend and slide it back. Maybe that heel is a little further back than it was before. Every time I need to get my butt and the back of my thigh on the floor. Let's do one more. Bend and slide it out and extend it. I'm reaching my right arm as far as I can out one direction, my right foot as far as I can out the other direction. That outside butt is working like crazy. Let's do the same thing on the other side. Arms out, left arm flips, up and over, massive rainbow. Lots of joy. Everybody loves rainbows. And reach that left hand out as far as you can, one direction, left foot as far as you can, the other direction. What's happening with our left leg? We're gonna bend that knee and then extend and slide it back. Press that left butt down into the floor. And next time, make sure that that knee is going straight up towards the ceiling. Feel how those external rotators help you get even deeper into your side bend. Last one, bend. And extend longest line possible from your left hand to your left foot. Maybe go a little deeper into that side bend, keeping that left butt pressed down, left butt muscles working. Back up to center. All right, we're gonna do a little bit of a lean forward here. So arms straight out to the side. I am not gonna move my legs in for this one. I'm gonna try to keep them pulling back super wide as I hover my body forward. Now, for those of you whose legs are wider, this is probably not going to go super deep. So this is about as far forward as I can go before my legs start to turn in and I just feel like I'm going to belly flop forward onto the floor. But we're just going to hold that position. And what you want to feel is that your outside butt is working like crazy. And you can feel the connection of the muscles in the outside butt up into your back and your torso muscles that are holding your spine out straight. So I'm not arching my back, right? I'm not here. My spine is straight, but my spinal muscles, my extensor muscles are working hard to hold me. I can also make it harder, bringing the arms up over my head. This is pretty hard. Hold here for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and arms come down. And then we're just going to take our nice, relaxing, more passive stretch forward. But just because it's a passive stretch does not mean I'm relaxing, because if I relax, that happens. And that's not what I want, right? I'm using the whole outside of my leg, from my pinky toe all the way up to my butt, to rotate my legs back, even as my body comes down towards the floor. And we can just hang out here. We can find that little bit of spinal movement that you know I'm so obsessed with. So again, I'm anchoring the legs, I'm anchoring the butt muscles, and just giving my torso that nice little bit of mobility and opening up. All right. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure we're ready to try some middle splits. So bring your outside butt with you, and we're going to come on up to standing. I really like to work on coming into middle splits from standing when you're first learning them, because it really helps you develop that musculature and that relationship to gravity. So that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to come nice and wide with the feet. So this exercise looks a lot like a ballet second position plie for those of you who are dancers, but we're going to come wide, like wider than you normally would for ballet. And I want to look down at my feet. I want to make sure I'm in my natural turnout with my feet, which means I'm not trying to turn my feet out further than they would go if they were turning out from the hips. So when I bend my knees, I want my knees to be to the outside of my big toes. So if I look down, I can still see my big toes to the inside of my knees, and my weight is coming a little bit more towards the pinky toe side of my feet. This requires a lot of our world famous outside butt. So as I'm bending and straightening my knees, I'm feeling this outside butt working to bring that weight out and to open up the inside of the hips and the hip flexors. So if I touch my hip flexors here, my hip flexors are not squeezing super hard. I'm not feeling compressed. I'm not squishing in here by arching my back and sticking out my butt. My back is nice and straight. So as I bend my knees down, it's just like my butt's on an elevator. It's just going one story down and one story up, straight up and down. And you should feel that the majority of the work is coming from the butt, a little bit from the hamstrings, less so quads and hips. And that's what's going to enable us to really open all of this up, which is what we're going to need for our middle splits. So let's stop in that knee bent position, and we're going to do what I like to call the water bug, which is where we're just doing this little slide back and forth. So I'm just trying to move my weight from one foot to the other the whole time. Outside butt, like a mantra, outside butt, just feeling that work, opening up the hips nice and wide. If you want to make it harder, we can just scoot the feet a little further apart, and then it becomes harder. Bam! Bam, congratulations. All right, from here, I'm going to sink it down just a little bit deeper, bring my arms out to the side. I'm really pulling those knees back into some little pulses, squeezing those knees open. I'm trying to bring this to as flat as possible across the front, getting those butt muscles inspired. Then I'm going to hold them out there, weight into the pinky toe side of my feet. I'm going to start to flat back my body forward. Now, you might get to here, you might be able to go further. However far you can go, you want to hold this position. And I'm trying to feel those outside butt muscles working in the way the outside butt connects up into my back to support my body, support my torso. We can do some little pulses down towards the floor. Feeling that weight out in the pinky toe side of the feet. Let's do 3, 2, 1, and then the hands come down to the floor and we're going to straighten the legs. Now we are solidly warmed up for this middle split adventure that we're about to take. So I like to feel those muscles first, warm them up, and then try to find them in this position. So imagine that you're trying to slide your feet apart, like you're in the trash compactor in Star Wars, first movie, old one, and you're trying to push those two walls apart. And so these outside butt muscles are working to press those legs out and down into the floor. That has to keep working the entire time. So now as I slide my feet out a little bit further, I stop and I check in. Are my butt muscles still working? If I get to the point where I slide down so far that I can no longer feel those muscles working, that I've just started to be like at the mercy of gravity sinking down towards the floor, I've gone too far for my strength. So your flexibility aided by gravity might be greater than what your body is capable of doing in terms of strength right now. So at some point that happens, just boop, come up a little bit higher again and hold where you feel like your middle split is manageable. So from this position, wherever you are, you want to find some tuck and arch, that little bit of movement in the torso. So we've learned how to move our torso while anchoring with our outside butt. That outside butt is still working. Inner thighs are still working. And a little forward and back, right? Still feeling those muscles holding us nice and strong. Now, for those of you who are more flexible, who are maybe able to come down further, the closer we get to the floor, we start to bend the elbows, maybe start to come down on the elbows. The same thing can happen, a little forward and back, a little tuck and arch. And the closer you get to the floor, the less that gravity pushes on you, because the more of your leg you have on the floor, right, the more relaxing it becomes. But just because you get all the way down doesn't mean that this is a place to relax. So I'm still squeezing this outside butt muscle and trying to lift my legs up off the floor. They're not going to go. I know they're not going to go, but I'm imagining that they could lift up off the floor. And that is creating the strength in the outside butt that I want to have the entire time. Now, to get out of your middle splits, it really depends on where you are and what you feel comfortable with. If you're further up, like the position we were in before, you can just heel toe your feet back in towards each other. If you're all the way down like this, you can come forward onto your belly and squeeze your legs together. Or if you want, you can try tucking your pelvis under. So use your abdominal muscles, press your butt back towards the floor, walk your hands in, and straddle. And you squeeze your inner thighs and come together. And there you are. You did it. Middle split. Yes. So please don't worry if your middle split did not get flat on the floor. Get to a point where you can hold it and feel the muscles. The muscles and the flexibility have to develop together in order to be able to make this a long-term, sustainable, harmonious relationship, which is really what we want. And remember, when we are convincing our bodies to go into these deep and scary positions, you're not just changing the musculature and the way that the flexibility works, you're also changing the relationship with the nervous system and what the nervous system gets nervous about. And that only happens one little step at a time. So consistency and kindness are the best tools that you have to reaching the middle split that you really want, that feels good and is good for your body and actually creates more stability in your hips, not lots of ouchiness in your hips and knees. Everyone's dream, right? Everyone's dream. All right, everybody, please like and subscribe to the channel if you want more bendy tidbits from me and the rest of the crew here at Fit and Bendy. I will see you next time. Many happy bendings.